Today we're going to be installing my new RV door lock from Latch.It. So let's take a look at what comes in the box. So obviously we get the new digital door lock with the keypad. Very heavy unit. I'm really impressed. Comes with 2 key fobs, 4 keys, a key ring, all the necessary hardware, and an extra large gasket or seal. Instruction manual, pretty straightforward. I think most of it spends time going over how to program the keypad, the key fobs, all that kind of stuff. All right, I purchased this on Amazon, and I have to tell you, almost immediately I got an email from Latch.It. It seems like it's going to be a really good company to work with. So, to get started, we're going to remove the original latch from this reflection. I did a previous video on modifying this latch, and it seems like this is a really common problem because the spring tension on this latch was so hard that when you would close the door, you would literally have to slam it. So after I made those changes, and in the video I'll link to in the description, I show you where I did that to my brother-in-law's reflection. He has a 150 series 280 RL. Same issue though. The door latch is just way too hard. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my camera mounted, pull off this original latch, and then we'll walk through the process of installing the new one and programming it. Okay, so we're going to start by removing the old latch. To do that, I'll try and keep my big head out of the way here. I'm going to remove the 2 screws on the outside. And this plate. Then I'm going to remove these 4 screws. And the latch just lifts right out. Like that. Alright, so to get the new latch ready to install it, we're going to take the same 4 screws out, and that'll actually allow us to separate this unit. Alright, so when I pull this apart, a couple things to notice. We have to unplug this little guy. So this will be the piece that goes on the inside of the door. And this will be the piece that goes on the outside. So, notice it does already have a gasket on here. Okay. So when you go to install this, the outside piece, you're going to want to make sure that the deadbolt is in, and you're probably going to want to pull the latch back, because as this thing goes in, there's very little room for all of this. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a try, and we'll see how it goes in. All right, so again, it's going to go in like that. So I'm going to pull back on the handle and just kind of work it in there. So just without doing anything else, I want to make sure that there's proper clearance for everything. The handle works right. Now, just because I want to make sure, I'm going to go ahead and just hold this and close the door. Make sure that it latches and it opens. All right. So feel pretty good about that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the inside piece on there. So again, on the inside piece, we're going to make sure that we connect this wire, and it's going to go up in there, and we want to make sure we don't pinch it. The other thing we're going to need to do is make sure we line up this guy for the deadbolt. So I'm going to go ahead and set my screws right here. And I'm going to plug this in. Got my wire connected. You want to make sure you hold this in, push it in really good, and then just going to fold this wire in and make sure we don't pinch it. So now I have to, the last thing is to make sure that we get this guy in there right. So my deadbolt is working, my latch is working, and now I'm going to get these screws started. So they did provide a handy dandy little multi-screwdriver. I kind of like using my own though. Alright, so I'm not going to tighten these up just yet. I'm going to get all four of these started. And again, a lot of people want to use an impact driver, but for something like this, because this aluminum door is really so thin, you don't want to over tighten these, and you want to make sure that they get started straight. You don't need to cross threads. Okay, so again, I'm going to leave this relatively loose. I just want it to pull everything up close. So it can still move in there. And this will eventually pull back. Go ahead and put this plate on here. So again, I'm not going to tighten anything down just yet. I'm just going to snug these up. And I'm going to check to make sure that the door latch works, the deadbolt works, and then I just want to make sure that this is all nice and straight. Before I tighten these four screws, I'm going to tighten these two out here, because I want this to slide all the way forward, and if I tighten these right now, that's going to be in a bind. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these guys up, just snug them up pretty good. And again, just want to make sure everything still works. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and latch the door, make sure it opens, And so I'm going to take a look at my gaps here, but this should be relatively tight now because these two screws are tight. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by snugging down the back tube because that gasket is got to get collapsed in the back. And then get that guy. And again, not too tight because this door is pretty flimsy. And then we'll snug down these two. Back. So I'm going to go around all four screws several times because you have to remember we're collapsing that gasket. And then I'm going to just double check these two. Check my deadbolt. Check my latch. Go ahead and close the door. Seems to work. So the one last thing I want to check is the operation of my deadbolt using the key. So I'm going to go ahead and close the door, lock my deadbolt, and you can see that works. So it did come with 4 AA batteries, which I'd already installed. Pretty simple. You just have to get this little tiny screw out. Okay. So now there's a switch right here that will actually lock out the key fobs. So if you don't want to use the key fobs, you can turn this to off. But obviously I want to use the key fobs, so I'm going to leave it on. So the first thing we're going to do, again, all of the electronic parts of this only control the deadbolt. So whether I use the keypad here or a key fob, it's not going to lock the actual latch. All it's going to do is lock the deadbolt, which is perfectly fine. I think the deadbolt is much more secure than just the regular latch anyway. So now we're going to go ahead and program the key fob, which is actually very simple on this lock. So again, we want to make sure that this switch is in the on position, because if it's off, it disables the key fobs. So I'm going to turn that switch to the on position. So right above there is a little hole for key fob learning. And then on the key fob, we have the lock and the unlock. So what I'm going to do is push that button and hold it, push the lock button, hold this button down, so that's unlock, and that's lock. So now, if I turn this switch off, notice my key fob doesn't work. I turn this switch back on, I have unlock, and I have lock. So I'm going to go ahead and program my other key fob, and then I'm going to move my camera a little bit, and we'll program the keypad. From the factory, the keypad comes set to, the code is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go ahead, so right now you can see the deadbolt is unlocked. So I'm going to go ahead and go 1, 2, 3, 4 and lock. and you can see the deadbolt is now in the lock position. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, unlock, and it's in the unlock position. So one of the things that I'm not terribly impressed with is just how loud the keypad is. So in a second I'm going to show you how to change that. But before I do, let's go over actually programming your own code. So I'm going to change the default code from 1, 2, 3, 4 to, let's go 8, 7, 6, 5. Default code is 1, 2, 3, 4, lock. I'll unlock it. 1, 2, 3, 4, unlock. So now to go into programming mode, it says hold down 8 for 2 seconds and then hit the lock button. So you notice the code change. So now what I'm going to do is go 1, 2, 3, 4, lock. And then I'm going to put in my new code. 8, 7, 6, 5, lock. 8, 7, 6, 5, lock. Now my code should be 8765. 8, 7, 6, 5, lock. And you'll notice that the deadbolt locked. So then to unlock, 8, 7, 6, 5, unlock. So we successfully changed the code. But I don't necessarily like how loud the beep is on this. So per the instructions, if I press and hold the 1 button for 2 to 5 seconds, it should turn that off. Okay, so you can see it still locks. 8, 7, 6, 5, unlock. That still works. So now it's quiet again. One other thing I want to show you before I wrap this video up. So remember, we had this button to program our fobs. This button up here is reset all. So if I hold that down, and then go back, my original code should now work. And as you can see, it does. Notice that the beeping is back on again. So holding that button right there resets everything. So it should reset my key fobs, resets my code. So let's just verify that. I'm going to go ahead and try my key fob. Doesn't work. So that kind of wraps everything up. Very heavy. I really like this latch. Works really smooth. Much nicer than the one that came from the factory on this Grand Design Reflection 303 RLS. It latches very nicely, and just overall the operation is much better than what came original on this rig. So one last time, let's just lock it. 1, 2, 3, 4, lock. And now my RV is secure. All right. Thanks for watching.